In every generation, a rare few rise, not just to lead companies, but to shape entire industries, not just teams, but movements. Welcome to the League of Extraordinary Leaders East Africa, where vision meets courage and strategy sparks transformation. Hosted by Uganda's leading business journalist, Muhereza Kyamutetera. This is your front row seat to the minds reshaping the future of African business.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to this yet another episode of LXL East Africa. That is League of Extraordinary Leaders, where we get to sit down and have conversations with some of East Africa's greatest leaders. And the purpose of why we're doing all this is basically to be able to learn from them, get them to inspire us, but also show us what they've been through. Who knows, maybe they'll share an experience, one or two, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So especially the bad and the ugly, if you're about to make that mistake, you can be able to avoid it. With us today, we have a gentleman that I'm sure all of us know when you get to see him. He's done a lot of things. I don't even know how to begin to describe him. And just before we came to the show, we were not agreeing on whether he's retired, semi-retired, but he says he has a totally different view altogether. But before we get started, or maybe let's just get to dive into the show. The first thing is, I thought he was this expert in so many things, but on LinkedIn, he describes himself as a social investor or a philanthropist. I don't know, where do we get to that? I knew you to be a tax man, a tax expert, rather. Yes.
Thank you very much, Cham, and it's a pleasure to be here. A tax man, that is something that you refer to for tax collectors. So I redeployed myself not so many years ago and repurposed myself to do the things that I'm very, very passionate about. So, people want titles. I kept saying that my title is my name, but that was not good enough for the world that we live in. So I managed to come up with a description of what I'm doing, and it is social entrepreneur and a philanthropist. Now, I'll unpack that for you. Philanthropist is actually an English word which has its roots from two Greek words. Philos, which means love, and anthropos, which means humanity. So guess what philanthropist means? A person who loves human beings.
Yes.
A person who loves humanity. And because you love humanity, you then decide to invest in humanity, and that's why the social enterprise comes in. Entrepreneurship by its nature, you get resources, money, talent, expertise, and the factors of production as we know them from the Economics 101, and then create an enterprise, and then hopefully make a profit, while at the same time meeting a need in the society. A social entrepreneur is one who does an enterprise which is not for profit, but for purpose. So we'll talk about quite a number of my enterprises, but they are all for purpose, they are for impact, they are for purposes of making an intervention in the community, bridging a gap that I've seen, while at the same time demonstrating my love for humanity. Hence, social entrepreneur and philanthropist. Philanthropist basically puts me into the league of Bill Gates and those kind of people at a small scale, but doing it in my own way.
Yeah, I mean, I hear where you're coming from. The beauty about giving back society is that, even just making one person, happy, smile is enough to make you happy as well. So I do understand where you're coming from. So, of course, before we get to dive into the big story, maybe do share a little bit about some of these enterprises you're into, so that maybe next time we get to see a signpost somewhere, we know that's our man there doing his thing.
Okay, so there are enterprises, but is it my personal private enterprises or the ones that are corporate where I'm serving in different capacities?
Let's look at yours especially.
Okay, so my personal enterprises or family enterprises, maybe 4 of them. One is a place which many people in our neighborhood of Kiwatule, Nigeria, Buate, Namgongo and that neighborhood will know of. It's called Time to Play. It's a school that is set up in 2007, and its story also is a very interesting one. Those back then, my family used to live in the UK, and whenever they come to Uganda, myself and my wife would go out and about seeing relatives and extended family, but the children would stay at home with our house helps. And one time, my daughter, she's an adult now, Georgia and Gloria, they told our house help called Annette at home that would like to go and play in the park. Annette was very, very amused. This was in 2006. And she said, is it park in Pia or park in Kati? Basically, Annette's idea of a park is the taxi park. For Gloria and Georgia, a park is a recreational park where children go to play. There are lots of those in Europe, in the Western world. There are quite a number in Kenya. Uganda, we used to have places that were eventually grabbed by who, and then developed, so there are no places where children could go and play. This was in 2006. I was still living in Kenya, and I said, so where do children go to play? And my way of doing things is that when I see a need and I can intervene and do it, I do it. So to cut the long story short, I set up Time to Play as a children's entertainment and recreation center. The children that joined us in 2009 in kindergarten are now in senior 6. And my wife meets so many people who call her Madame Sophie because they've gone through her hands. My wife runs it. And that enterprise is still going very strong. And we've now upgraded to a lower primary school. The second enterprise, which is really the proper social for impact, for purpose, is Masaka School for the Deaf. That's a school I set up in 2005. And the story for that one, if you think Time to Play story is very compelling, this one is very, very emotional and passionate. In 2001, I'd just come back from the UK about a year and a half working with PwC Uganda, and I was in my hometown of Masaka, and I met a gentleman who was deaf. This gentleman knew me. I couldn't remember him, but eventually, after one or two interactions, I was reminded through an interpreter that the gentleman says, we grew up in the same village. The village is called Chimanya. We used to play together, and he's so surprised to how grown up and sort of upmarket, polished. I was a senior manager driving a very big car, and this good friend of mine was a cobbler. His workstation was a bench on a veranda of a hardware shop. Cut the long story short, 2, 3, 4 interactions with him over a period of about 6 months. He wanted to know where I've been, how come I look so important, do I even remember how we used to play and where have I been all those years? So I filled him into the detail. I left Masaka in the late 90s during the Saba War and went to finish my primary school in Kampala in P7, went to Namasagali College for 6 years, went to Makerere University for 3 years, went to the UK for 10 years. So there were basically 23 years since I left the village, leaving that good friend of mine behind to when we met again from 1978 to 2001. And listening to that information and what I've all been to, it was all about going and studying and getting qualifications. So his name is Moses Kirangwa. Moses summarized the difference between me and him as education. And Cham, that really humbled me. I was here senior manager talking about tax policy, appearing on forums with ministers and being invited at every talk show to discuss the budget. And people had made me to think that I was actually important until I met Moses, who really, really brought me down to earth and said, Mr. Kamulegeya, if you didn't go to school and if you had not left the village, you'd be like me. It wasn't about me being able to talk and him being deaf. It was purely education. So I decided that there shouldn't be any more Moses Kilangwas in my hometown of Masaka. And I set up Masaka School for the Deaf in 2005 with support from friends in the UK and my very good friend and late sister, Sophie Kafero. That school has been transformational and has been very, very impactful. Over the last 20 years, we have provided education, literacy, numeracy to children who never thought that they would ever get an opportunity for education because of the stigma that we have in our country, because of the ignorance, and also the disadvantage that is associated with that kind of disability. Close to 1,000 children can now read and write. Not only can they read and write, but actually many of them are the most educated and numerate in their families because they come from very, very poor families. And the success has been phenomenal that it even inspired me to now set up a Masaka Vocational Training Institute. And that is one of the reasons I decided to leave PwC at the right time, in my view, to go and deploy myself and pursue things that I'm very passionate about, but also do things that are making a huge difference and impact in the community. That's the story in brief. I said 4 enterprises, so it's time to play.
Time to play.
Masaka School for the Deaf, Masaka Vocational Training Institute, and Kazinga Coffee.
Okay.
So I am a farmer. I grow coffee, I process it, I package it, and I sell it. I also drink it. Yes.
Okay. Interesting. And for the viewers, you may want to know that I have had a chance to visit all the 4 enterprises. A long time ago, we used to go to Time to Play because I stayed outside. And I never knew it was your enterprise.
Yes.
And of course, at your invitation, I also had a chance to visit the school. Very phenomenal. And one thing I got to learn is that, I participated in a lot of dancing with the kids. And I didn't know that these kids, when they are dancing, they feel the beats from the ground.
Yep, the vibrations.
Yeah, the vibrations from the ground. So that's how they're able to do their thing. And I know they taught me how to count from 1 to 6, but I've since forgotten.
They even gave you a side name.
Yes. Yeah. And one other thing I learned about coffee, and maybe we can talk about now, is there is a theory you told me about coffee. If you want to do good coffee, I think it involves something like 9. There was a figure 9 somewhere.
Correct, yeah.
If you have, I think, like 9 something on
Clusters,
the tree.
yeah.
I don't know. Let's first see about that theory again. Maybe for my coffee farmers, everybody now has been talking about coffee. What's that story again about the 9 figures?
The 9 figures. Okay, first of all, I like simplicity. Yeah, I like simplicity. So I always try and simplify things. So I'll meet so many people who are going into farming, who are farming, and the first thing they ask me, how many acres do you have? Actually, I've never bothered to measure the acreage because I've got a very big piece of land. It's about 52 acres. It has a school for the deaf, sitting on about 7 acres. It has a vocational training institute sitting on about 5.7 acres. There is our home. You've been to that place. It's about 3 acres. There are 8 fish ponds. There is coffee. There is a forest. There is vegetables. There is olusuku. So, but I know how many trees I've planted. So I've got trees that if I use an average of about 520 trees per acre, my acreage comes to about 22 out of that 52 acres of land covered by coffee. Now, the theory or strategy or formula I gave you was that don't worry so much about your yield per acre. Focus on the yield per tree. So yield per tree also takes you down to the number of clusters on a branch. And I said the average subsistence farmer has about 9 clusters on a branch. And the 9 clusters on a branch gives you about 2 kilograms of parchment. Not parchment, cherries. Those are the red, ripe coffee beans that we harvest. In my case, if you're doing coffee as a business, it means that you're investing properly, fertilizers, mulching, pest control. I do irrigation as well, proper weeding, and have good agronomical husbandry. At the minimum, you should be getting at least 12 clusters of tutwa. And those 12 clusters basically mean you have invested and they are giving you that. It's kind of like the cost of production. And it's until you get into 12 and above. I'm getting 15 myself. That is now where you're making money. And 15 clusters per tree, per small branch, should give you about 8 kilograms of red, ripe parchment coffee per tree. And then parchment coffee conversion to to parchment, cherries to parchment, 85% water, the red ripe cherries, 15% to 12%, the parchment, there's weight loss of almost nearly 60%. After that is the size of the bean. The size of the bean is determined by the agronomical practices as well as the quality of the soil. Right. After that, parchment, it's FAQ. You want to be getting not less than 55% conversion parchment to FAQ, which is cassette. And then after cassette, you do the grading, which is your screen 18, screen 17, 16, 12, and that's where the money is.
Okay. Yes. I see your mathematics very, very well. Let's quickly, I've been to your village. By the way, I had some very good coffee and G-nuts made by himself, which was a different Francis from the one we used to know in the office. But as I was touched on, I saw you making the coffee and the G-nuts, and we had quite a good time. Maybe, again, speaking of your growing up, let's go back to your growing up, as a child, and how you think that eventually got to shape you into the person that you become. At least up to the campus days. You talked about Namasagai. Namasagai used to be a whole different story. Everybody wanted to go to Namasagai, and when I hear that people went to Namasagai and also eventually went to Makere, I'm surprised that, how was your growing up?
Growing up was as normal as can be. As a parent now, when I reflect on how I was parented and what I'm doing for my children, and then also as a corporate executive, when I see the things that we aspire for, or the values that we believe in, I actually realize that we all want the same things, whether as a parent, whether as a corporate executive, or as a leader in whatever capacity. So the values that were instilled in me, mainly by my mother, I spent a lot of my life with my mother, are the things that when you walk into the lobby of many of these corporate offices, you see them on, what they call it.
Vision.
Exactly, they pull up banners. Values, yes.
Yeah,
so it's care, it is respect, it's integrity, it is honesty, hard work, responsibility, and anybody listening to this, anybody watching this, when you think about what your parents were telling you, those were the same things. Do not tell lies. When you're asked to do something, do it. Don't play around, respect the elders and, go to church, say your prayers, do whatever it is. And we didn't have a pull-up banner for that. And you behaved in a manner that was expected of you. And my view is that we all start off with the right values from home. It's until we get exposed into the schools we go to, into the world that we go to, that suddenly we get corrupted, for lack of a better word, because there's nobody who is born a thief. There's nobody who is born corrupt. You are a very young baby, and you are modeled, and you are nurtured, and you are taught all these values from home. So for me, those have stayed with me. And the thing with mothers is my mother died almost 10 years ago. She had a very, very good life. Died at almost 90 years of age. I spent, about 45 years, nearly 50 years with her. The difference between me and her was 40 years. I'm the youngest of 10 children. So I spent a lot of time with her when all my siblings were gone and grown and gone. But there are things that, even at my very adult senior age of 58 years, I reflect and say, I can't do that. What would my mother say? But she's dead. But somehow I believe that she's out there watching, and you have to stay on the straight and narrow. You can't be seen doing things simply because she's not here. So those values, Cham, have stayed with me, and they keep me in the straight and narrow, and they're my guardrails.
It's interesting, those values that you say you picked from your mother, and for some reason everybody seems to be talking about their mothers a lot. I don't know what we the fathers were doing or what we are doing, but anyway, that will be a story for another day. And you did a Bachelor of Sciences in Agriculture at Makere.
Correct.
And I'm not surprised you eventually came back home to do your original calling, and then you left for the UK. Let's talk about your life in the UK. What made you live in the UK? And at what point did you decide to come back? Because I know many Ugandans, once they've left Uganda, they don't want to come back.
First of all, doing agriculture at university was not my plan. and asked me what I wanted. When I was 7 years old in Masaka, I wanted to be a shopkeeper because most of the people who had money in my village were either shopkeepers or taxi drivers.
You're not very different from my son who told me he wants to be a boda rider because those guys always have money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was like 1975. But first track, you go to school, you're good at science and the chemistry and biology, and then you end up doing PCB. You're just being propelled by the teachers and other people to go and do this, that, and the other. And my class was maybe the third or fourth to excel at sciences in Namasaka College. You thought that people who go to Namasaka, you don't go to university.
They were just dancing.
It was the best school back then. And all these international schools that you see now are modeled on that concept of a whole curricular education, not just academics, but developing the whole person. And by the way, if you reflect on some of the Namasagali people that you know, especially those high-profile ones that you know of, but even all those that you don't know, when you meet them, you see the way they carry themselves, the way they expose, their perspectives on life. It's very, very different from these very traditional, original, academic-based schools, but that's a story for another day. So, having got a degree in agriculture, to me it was just a beginning of further education. And I have to say I'm very unconventional, and I don't apologize for it. At times people ask me, having done agriculture, how do you end up in accounting and tax? And I say, all I did was to get a degree in Bachelor of Science in Agriculture, 3 years.
Yeah.
So how can 3 years at Makerere define the rest of your life, or wherever the university that you go to? And I don't know whether I've shared this with you, the concept of competency trap, where people limit their perspectives by what they studied at university for 3 years. So for me, I didn't even know what that degree I was supposed to do with it, but I knew that I'd attained university education. And after that, I wanted to go and see the world. By that time, most of my siblings were living in the UK, and I wanted to do something in finance. And finance, why? Because again, I had a brother-in-law who was a manager in UCB back then, and he's the only person actually I spoke to in terms of career guidance. But during my S6 VAC, I was trading in maize. I was based in Mbirizi, which is on Mbara Road. That's the hub for maize. And I would buy maize and sell it at Liram Miras, that is in Intinda, Nakawa. And some of it would sell in Produce Marketing Board. And I made lots of money, but I didn't also want to end as a maize trader. So my brothers and sisters supported me. I went to the UK in 1990. And the moment I landed in England, it was such a huge Ugandan community, the Cheyo group that left in the late 80s, early 90s. And I was very, very careful not to be sucked into that lifestyle. It's very easy to get very comfortable, get a job and lots of pounds, buy very fancy shoes and brightly colored shirts and suits, and then go on for parties and then end up, in that space. So I was fortunate that I didn't even live in what was the most happening part of London for the UK community. We call it East London, East Plaistow, Stratford. I was living in Epsom, which is way in the village. And as soon as I got my resident status and work permit, I enrolled in college in 1992, started studying like a diploma in accounting. In the UK, they call it NVQ, National Vocational Qualification. Qualified as an accounting technician, then started working. I started wearing a tie. Somebody was cleaning classrooms and toilets about 2 or so years ago. And then I enrolled for SCCA. As soon as I qualified SCCA, 1996, I think it was, joined Coopers and Lybrand, which is the current PwC. Now, within 6 years, from Makerere, I was working with a big firm in London. And that was a major breakthrough. And at some point, I became a point of reference for the young people in terms of what you can do. And I kept guiding people, just be very resolute and be very future focused. Know that you own the future yourself and get all the counsel and support. But in our case, we had to work to pay our school fees. Unlike now, where we transfer lots of thousands of pounds on behalf of for our children to go and study in university. So, got a very, very good job and went on to train as a chartered tax advisor. CTA is a very, very exclusive qualification that in the olden days was a reserve of what they call in the UK tax barristers, tax solicitors, not for accountants. So by the time I enrolled as a chartered tax advisor, I even took time to inquire whether they had anybody in sub-Saharan Africa, let alone somebody from Uganda. And actually I was the first Ugandan to be a chartered tax advisor as per that register. There are lots of them since then, but it opened so many doors for me in terms of tax consultancy. And again, I didn't allow myself to get comfortable in the UK. So as soon as I got the qualification and also made contact with PwC Uganda, got to know about the opportunities in PwC in Africa, I decided to come back to Uganda in the year 2000. Again, it was very, very confusing for everybody because that's the time when everybody was now going the other side. Yeah, so I got a job. I was very, very highly qualified. I was earning a lot of money. I bought property in the UK, and then you say you're going back to Uganda. But the one thing that I'm very proud of myself is that I run my own race, and I'm very fortunate that I usually know what I want, and I look way, way ahead, and so far it's worked out really well.
Okay. Yeah. Actually, as you're talking, I was thinking about the some of the ex-Namasagalians that I know. I mean, looking at Kabushenga, looking at this gentleman who always has his own opinion, this Muhereza, yes, and many other. I mean, Beka Magunda. They've all grown up to be okay. It's interesting. Maybe now is the school still there?
The school is still there. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the school is still there. And by the way, I usually say, I mean, Namasagali, yes, is a school, but also it was a concept. It was a lifestyle. It was, all these international schools that you see here, and even the local schools, but with that kind of curriculum, it's modeled on Namasagali. Namasagali was the only private school back then. Okay. And those names you've mentioned, Kalijira was my classmate, Apollo Makuya was my classmate, Robert Kabushenga is my classmate, and lots of other very successful ladies and gentlemen that you don't know of. Some of them stayed in Jinja, others are in wherever, a huge diaspora in the UK. I have a classmate who was a councillor in London. Is it I've forgotten the name. In fact, her constituency used to be the constituency of Margaret Thatcher. She's called Maureen Magalia. We are very, very international. One of my very good friend and again former classmate.
Okay, so let's talk about returning to Uganda, and I think you also had a stint in Nairobi. Yes. And in all this, what was it like then compared to now? Of course, in terms of the practice, the opportunities, and how has that evolved?
Yeah, I mean, I can only speak for my firm because I've been in it for so many years. The time when I joined the firm in 2000 here in Uganda, it was an international firm, but I would say a local firm, a local practice, practicing under license from the international global firm. The reason why I say that is that because back then it was not as integrated within the regional Africa and global PwC firm as it is now. And in fact, the time I was admitted as a partner, I think our cohort, myself and 4 other colleagues, were the first partners in the unified, merged former PW and Coopers and Libra, now PwC, the first cohort of partners to be admitted outside our home countries. Simply because back then the practices were really local practices owned by local partners, but operating with under license from the international firm. By my time and since then, it's become a very, very globally integrated firm, both in terms of outlook, in terms of the way we do things. When you go to PwC, whether it's Singapore, Venezuela, Mongolia, Uganda, South Africa, UK, wherever, you get the same look and feel, same processes, same values, same methodology. And for that reason, so many opportunities opened up for young people. By the time I left Uganda, PwC Uganda, since I became managing partner 2012, I think it was, and then I left, I think 2009. Then I left in 2022. We had over 50 people, Ugandans, who had gone to work for other PwC firms from as far as USA, New York, Philadelphia, to places in Singapore, of course in Africa, South Africa, Ghana, Kenya, and that has continued. And it gives you a very international perspective. We had clients that were cross-border, so you work on a matter with a team from 5 different countries. And at times when I'm asked, you stayed in that place for 27 years. And I tell you, it was never the same. I never, ever did anything for more than 2-3 days. I mean, this building that we're in, there was Hits Telecom, there was Orange, there was AfriCell, they were all my clients. And from 2007 to 2022, I had clients in this building. Now I&M has 4-5 floors in this building. I'm the chairman of that bank. So I never ever did the same one thing. And every other organization or corporation that I could have worked for, actually, I was the advisor. And Cham, I advised the Stanbic Bank buying UCB in the year 2000. Yeah, that was my first assignment when I came to Uganda, up to 2022. You can imagine the exposure, the connections, the relationships, the social capital you build over the years, the friends that you make, and the expertise that you were talking to earlier on. So for me, that was a very, very rewarding, rich, and very successful career that I would strongly recommend anybody who wants to be grounded and has the time to be in one place for quite some time to pursue. Having said that, I appreciate what we now call the portfolio of careers, where you can do 3-4 different things, like you and your team. And maybe there's no time for such long-term careers like in our days. But for me, it worked for me, and I'm benefiting from those fruits. And that's why I was able to redeploy myself on my own terms, in my own time, to do so many other things that I'm doing right now.
Okay, I think looking at your career, and I mean, starting with, looking at the redeployment from PwC at the time when everything was nice, and you're still young. I mean, you said you're 58, meaning you must have left at 56.
Correct, 54.
You must still have been very, very, very energetic, yes. And then, of course, looking at some other decisions like, leaving Uganda, going to the UK and coming back, those are some bit of bold decisions. But I believe there also must have been some bit of risk calculation at the back end, especially you being into this whole game.
Yeah.
What are some of the lessons you've learned about, or how would you guide somebody who is about to make that decision of their life, but again, they are thinking, what if it doesn't work out? What if it works out? What are some of the key lessons you've learned and guides?
Key lessons. I always worry about that question because you can come across as being very prescriptive, but I'll tell you what has worked for me. Yeah?
Yes.
And if anybody wants to pick a leaf or two, great. Number one, I always envision the future. So at any one time, you are in some place and you know that that is not a permanent place that you're going to be to for years. So when I started off in the UK, I didn't have a professional qualification, and I could not even start moving around with my Bachelor of Science in Agriculture in that environment. Yeah. But I knew what I wanted, and I knew the opportunities in that place, and I knew what it takes, and the amount of time I have to go in, and also the amount of money that I needed. So I started off by doing all sorts of odd jobs that you can think of as they as they talk about the KAO. Yeah. And within a space of 1 year, I'd got enough money, I'd got a work permit, and I'd got resident status. And I enrolled into finance and accounting. And like they say, the rest is history. The moment I got a qualification, I looked at my colleagues in PwC in 1998, and I saw, the universities that they went to, their surnames and my surname, and skin color, and you have to be realistic. And I said, I've done very well for myself. Maybe I might get this far if I stay in this place. But then the firm is global, and I knew of the opportunities in Uganda, and I said, I'm not going to waste my time in this country because I'll get sucked into a lifestyle. You earn so much, you get a credit card, you get a mortgage, you get a car hire purchase, and you just stay in that cycle. And many of my contemporaries have stayed in that. I said, I want better and more things. I've always wanted to be a person of influence, somebody who has impact. And because you have that kind of aspiration, you take calculated risks. So very often when the most recent one was actually when I left PwC. And I invited lots of my friends, and I've got very, very many friends in this country of ours. But a lot of them were asking me questions which I already had answers to. But when I reflected on their questions, it was actually their own insecurity. Somebody asks you, so what are you going to do? And I said, actually, I know what I'm going to do. Yeah? But I'm not going to share that with you in the next 2-3 minutes we have. Because I did not just wake up and say I'm leaving. Yeah, I had a plan. Yeah. Then somebody asks you, so what's your new title? And I said, it was never about titles. Yeah. But a lot of people actually have enough money, maybe not so many, but our contemporaries, and for them maybe income is not going to be the issue. It is, what do you do, at 62? Because longevity, when you hear life expectancy here in Uganda at 64, we're not going to die at 64. We're going to live up to maybe 84, maybe even 90. So what do you do between 60 and 85? Yeah, that's 25 years. But you started working at 25, then you finish, so-called finish at 60, and we'll talk about retirement. And I say, you're not going to retire. You just need to have a plan of doing something different. So I call it calculated risks, but I have a principle, I call it the end point principle. So I'm here today, 8th of September 2025, and I visualize where I want to be 31st of December 2025. That's just a few months from now. But I visualize what I want to be doing, where I want to be, and what I want to be, who I want to be with in 31st of December 2030. That's just 35 years from now. So now when you have that visibility of that future point, then you put it down on paper. Like I said, I'm very methodical. So I put it down, point A, point B. So what's the gap between A and B? Yeah. And what does it take to be at B? It's not just a matter of time. Yeah. So for me as a professional, it was always about skills, abilities, networks, social capital, financial wellness, and personal health, lots of things, and then you start working towards them. So a lot of people that find some of my decisions a bit abrupt and erratic, when we sit down and I explain, they understand me. But I have taken so many risks. A few of them haven't worked out that well, but I never dwell on such things. I just bounce forward and move on. And when you came to Masaka School for the dev. In 2012, we stopped getting funding. Initially, it was fully funded. So the school closed at the end of the year with 28 children. The following year, we told parents pay school fees. 98 children did not come back. So there's no way I was going to come here and be on TV talking about the budget and GDP growth and all sorts of other income per capita when 70 day planners have stayed home simply because our donors, who were 5 people in the UK, giving us £2,000 a month, stopped funding us. So I said, I'll do this myself. I did it quietly. It's until I left PwC that people came to the school and said, you've been doing this for the last 20 years without telling us. I couldn't because of potential conflict of interest. Now I talk about it. Anybody I meet, I say, please sponsor a child. It's $100 per term, and it's the most impactful $100 you'll ever spend. But I couldn't back then because all of them were my friends or my clients. So I don't dwell on things that haven't happened. I don't live a life of victim. I know where I'm going. I know what I want. I have managed to free myself from the noise. I know what I want in life. I have a concept of enough. There are people who don't know how much is enough. And they just want more. And the more they get, they want more. The more possessions they have, they even become possessed by the possessions. And they're not fulfilled. So I'm different, and I thank God for that.
So then and now, when do you sleep better? and maybe in connection to that, you introduced me to a concept of from success to significance. Maybe in line of sleeping better, we could also by extension talk about that concept, because I would want our viewers to be able to pick that concept. I think it's a very powerful concept that we all could learn a thing or two from.
Okay. I think we all have our own measure of success. At times it's just stuff, nice car, nice shirt, nice house. At times it's the job, it's the title, and often you are successful and somewhat contented until you see something else. And that's why I say that it's very, very important to have a concept of what is enough. So success has to be defined by yourself. Is it money? Is it the job? Is it status? Is it things? And the truth is, there will always be somebody who has more stuff. You have just got your iPhone, whatever. I think mine is iPhone 12 or something like that. They're about to stop supporting it all of these days. But all my daughters have a better phone than myself, and for them it's a big thing. And I said, fine, but you have to define what is success to you. I've gone through a phase which I like structure, so I call it the 4 S's. If I reflect on my life as a youngster in Masaka during the Idi Amin days and the Sabasaba War, that was struggle. But I survived. Then if I reflect on my teenage years in Namasagali, growing up as a young adult, and all the different social pressures that you were there back then, and the university, I call that a phase of survival, because we did so many things just to survive. Just to survive. And I think even that went on to my early adult years in the UK, till about maybe 30. From 30, when I got a proper qualification and very, very resolute in terms of what I was going to do with my life, was married by that time, had a child and got property, and we were very, very clear on what we want on life. So everything was about a ladder, a step on the ladder towards what was success. And that period of success was a very long period, because it's not about bragging, but I know myself. So I say I've had a very, very successful career. I've been very successful in my relationships. I've been very successful in terms of the way I've applied myself and the way I've made myself, the way I've purposed myself. And because I knew how much success I'd gotten, and maybe there came to a point where I could not do anything more, because in PwC I was managing partner, I was a member of the Africa Governance Board, I was part of the East Africa Market Leadership Team. Basically, I was advisor to almost everybody in this market in terms of taxation and policy and business consultancy. And I had a very, very good team that we had trained and developed, and they are way younger than me, and they are more energetic, and they were the future of the firm. I had to be realistic that I think I need to get out of their way. But I knew that I was going somewhere. So I was then going to translate that success into something that is significance. So success is acquiring things, doing things, whether it's possessions, whether it's qualifications, title, status, when people turn up and they are titled, even they are recognized, they feel very, very accomplished because they are exactly, recognize your presence, and even some of them even turn up late and they have to win normal people away from the front seat so that those important people sit there. Yeah. And it's about titles, But Kyam, what happens in society when the title goes away, suddenly what they consider to be success has already disappeared. So the phase of life that I'm in is what I call significance. Significance is when now you're no longer so much about yourself, but being others focused. I like doing things for other people. I want to support people where I can. I want to leave an impact wherever it is I can go within my limited means. But most importantly, I believe in this concept of climbing the ladder while at the same time giving people a hand so that they can climb with you. I believe in using my knowledge, resources, success to make a positive difference and also creating benefits for other people. And at the end of the day, all said and done, when our time comes to go, that is really what matters. It's not about all the stuff that you had. It's about what you did and what impact you had and what difference you made. And I call that significance.
Okay. Does significance also include sleeping better without getting worried that...
You see, it's okay to get worried, but the most important thing is to do something about it. So you can worry about things. There is so much that is going wrong in the world at the moment, whether in our country, whether in the region, whether in the world, and you can list all those things, and then suddenly you say you're stressed, But stress is not bad all the time. The reason why you go to the gym and then lift all these things, you're stressing the muscles. And the more you stress them, the more they grow. When you go to school and you have all these volumes, we used to read a book called Abbott for physics. It was a huge, huge book. But we read those things and we passed the exams. And ask me what I did with it. I don't know. But you stress your brain so much that you got the grades, and then that led you to the next level of your education. So yes, I get stressed. I do something about it. I don't dwell on failure. I don't worry so much about what is not going right. Maybe some things are not meant to go right. Maybe they are not for me. So I actually sleep at night, and I sleep a lot.
Okay, and I mean, you've advised so many organizations, so many CEOs. You've sat in so many boardrooms, and I know, PwC during your time, and even up until today, you still participate in a lot of recruitments, especially at the senior level, and also people come to you for advice. And when looking back and thinking through all this, what are some of the key things that stand out for you in terms of leadership, or some of the challenges that leaders are grappling with out there, and what are your own insights from that? What has seeing the challenges of other people? What has that taught you about how to live your own life?
Okay, seeing challenges of other people. Do I even see them? Maybe let me put it differently. So what has worked for me? What has worked for me? Because I know my story. I'm the author of my own story. And I try to avoid being very prescriptive because I'm not a guru. I'm a very simple man from Masaka who is doing his own things. What has worked for me, being authentic. Authentic, and again, authentic comes from again a Greek or Latin word, but actually the word author, is derived from authenticity. So you are the author of your own story. So you need to be authentic. I like the concept of humility. You just need to be humble. There are people who are just, they got so, the bigger the ego, the easier it is to bruise it. So you need to have humility, and for me that has worked for me, and simply because I know myself. I never ever allowed status and titles and recognition and God knows what to get carried away with those things. So what I did successfully, which maybe I can recommend, is it's important to have an identity and know yourself, and that self being different from what you do. Because the moment you what you do, then you've lost your identity, and then you've become the thing. Yeah, yeah, because everything that we do is a thing. Yeah, but who are you? Yeah, that's one question. And then what do you do? Yeah. Now the moment who are you is answered by Kyamutetera, Muhereza, CEO magazine, whatever, then you've suddenly gone into what you do. Because being a CEO of CEO magazine, it's even very confusing. You're a CEO, and the magazine is called CEO, but it means that you've now veered into, you've lost your identity and you've become the thing that you do. And then what happens when CEO magazine is not there? Yeah, you know. So I was country senior partner, managing partner, PwC, and recognized, mentioned this, that, and whatever. And then suddenly I'm not. Now, the one thing that I told my friends when I was leaving PwC, and even said it when we had our very, very big dinner in Sheraton, was, please never call me a former. I've got so much going for me to be described as a former, because former is historical. I was a former person doing Cheyo in the UK. Why don't you call me that? I was a former whatever in Masaka College. Why don't you call me that? So the moment you are called a former, it means you lost your identity and you became the thing that you're doing. But that thing that you are doing is now being done by somebody else, and you don't have an identity apart from a point of reference, which is the address that you are at some point. So to me, this is a very, very powerful message, especially for contemporaries who are about to transition out of whatever they're doing. If you're 58, myself, if you're 60, you are likely to live to 85. Middle class, the longevity, the lifestyle. Anytime you go to the gym and you're running on the treadmill, you are increasing the life you're going to be alive. You had better have a plan for that time. And you cannot just wait to be called former and you think they'll invite you to conferences and seminars and workshops. There's somebody who is there now. So I do believe in the concept of repurposing, redeployment. Not retired, but redeployed. Not terminated, but transitioned. And when I was thinking about that concept, I went and did some research about retirement. So retirement is a concept from the old industrial age of the Western world. Well, first of all, back then, life expectancy was about 40 years, or maybe 45. Industrial revolution came, and everything was manual. So you worked in smoked-filled factories, and your lungs could only carry you for so many years. So they also set up a pension fund. So at the age of 45, maybe 50, they would retire you because you are no longer strong enough to lift these things that were the machinery and the things that made things, and then the young people come in. In our culture, in our African tradition, there was no retirement. You wake up, you go and work. You don't work, you don't eat. And then as you become old and frail, you stop digging, you stop doing whatever it is that you're doing, but then you become an elder, a different status. So you are the council of elders, you are the people who people go to for advice and counsel, and then you're still relevant. And for me, that is how I believe we should be looking at life. So retirement at 60 is not the end. Even the whole word itself, retirement means ceasing, stopping, coming to an end. It's actually very depressing when you think about it. For somebody who is 60 years and has got so much energy, goes to the gym and is very healthy, the blood pressure is good, the cholesterol is low, the sugar is fine. So he's going to live another 20 or so years. So when it comes to repurposing, to do board work and this non-executive work, you have to think about what boards are looking for. You're not going to get a board role simply because you're an accountant, auditor, lawyer, engineer, doctor, you name it. One actually needs to go back to the concept of a corporate 101. So a corporate enterprise is a body which is created by the statute. Then shareholders pool resources and they invest in it. Then the shareholders appoint directors to look after it on their behalf. Then directors appoint a chief executive who then puts together a team of executives to run the business. So for you to become a non-executive director, you have to be able to offer something to the shareholders to trust in you to look after their corporation on their behalf. Director is not about giving directions. It's actually about directing. Directing, guiding, supporting, giving counsel, and most importantly, having the oversight. So it's really, really important that one gets out of their competency trap of an auditor, accountant, engineer, lawyer, architect, if they want to be a successful executive director, and get to understand the purpose for which this company was set up. I recently did a diploma in corporate governance. It was one of the most demanding courses I've done over time. I did it online on the space of 6 months. I think you have to spend about 150 hours. And you have to complete a module, pass the exams before the next module opens. There are 12 modules. So people need to get out of their competency trap and be more open to learn new things. Digital and AI is not an IT thing. It is just the new environment in which we operate. Whether you like it or not, it's here with us. Just like internet was with us 30, 40 years ago. Just like steam engine was with us 150 or 200 years ago. So you have no option but to repurpose yourself, get new skills, and also, try and build social capital and have presence and have an identity that is beyond the current position. And after that, you should be fine.
Having this conversation about the preparation, especially for somebody who was prepared, it may look like it's very easy. But I think most of us have not had a chance to think about that. Or sometimes you just jump into the job and, maybe you have a term of 4 years and you think 4 years is like too long. Before you know it, it's about 3 years, and then you're beginning to say, like, 4 years is not enough. Maybe we should increase, we should amend if there is any constitution or anything that needs to be amended. Some people spend a lot of time and resources in trying to do lobbying with the board and whatever to have their years increased. Looking back at your own experience, and like as saying behind the mic, when we were doing the commercial break, you begin dying the day you're born.
Correct.
So ultimately, you need to start preparing for death.
Correct.
What are some of the key lessons or the key advice? And again, like you like to say, what has worked for you? But I'm sure if it's working for you, it should be working for other people in one or another. What are some of how do you start preparing yourself so that when, your day finally, does come, you don't find yourself thrown into a state of quagmire, if I could use that word, like our friend Mbide likes to say.
Yeah. Okay, I think first of all, you have to be very deliberate and intentional of creating an identity that is different from what you do.
Okay.
Because that is very, very important. And unfortunately, the world we live in over-glorifies titles. Yeah? And then we also get carried away with those titles, and then they become our identity. And then we lose our identity and we become the thing, and then we really, really try as much as possible to protect that thing, knowing very much that it will go. Yeah. So the moment you do that, and it's not easy to do it, because even you can try and do it, and then suddenly people just you can't be sitting back there. You're the CEO of this thing. You cannot be parking there. This is reserved for whatever. So you really have to be intentional to work on that. Yeah. Now, that is the first thing. Then the second thing is, because, as you said, you begin dying the moment you are born, you start your retirement journey. And as I said, I don't believe in retirement, but you start on the journey of exiting and transition from that role the moment you are appointed. And that's why appointment letters have got a term. Yeah. So at the end of that term, you might be retained or you might not. Yeah. And every day you walk into that office, the clock is ticking. Yeah. So it is only fair that you own your agenda in terms of what you're going to do next. Like I said, every time you go to the gym and you're doing all this workout and you're very fit, then you go to the doctor and the blood pressure is good and the cholesterol is down and the sugar is fine, it means you are healthy. Yeah. If you're healthy, it means you're going to live longer. Yeah. Now you had better have a plan for that life. Yeah. And that plan is not going to be given to you by the corporate entity because they appointed you for a job and it's a term or period of service, and after that you are going to leave. So either you have a plan for that or you wait for it to happen and then quietly go back to the village or wherever you came from and wait to die. Because it actually happens. People die soon after retirement when they have nothing to do. Yeah? So you prepare yourself by, if you believe in a concept of retirement, which I don't believe in, but we use the word because it's the English word that we have, then have something to retire to. As opposed to being seen to be retiring from your job. The moment you have something to retire to, it even makes it more exciting. You look forward to that transition. Yeah? And there is a very small proportion, but a very significant proportion of people, our contemporaries, whose issue of retirement is not about income. Yeah? It's about what do I do with myself. Yeah? You've been waking up and getting in the car and somebody opening the door for you and then driving you to some place, and even some people running alongside your car and making all sorts of noise and everybody giving way. That will go away at some point. Yeah? And please prepare yourself for that. Secondly, it is financial planning. Yeah? And I've talked about that very many times. In fact, one time I was accused by good friends of mine who have so much stuff, and they were saying, you called our stuff clutter. Yeah. I said, we go through a phase in terms of personal financial planning where you are saving, investing, and then later on you want really to have more liquid assets and access to cash as opposed to having so many things. So there are friends and colleagues and highly wealthy people, actually I call it rich people who have lots of things, but actually those things are not generating income, but they take pride in just having all those very many titles, but they cannot go to their village and make a meaningful impact, which is going to ensure that children go to school, or rural women have access to clean water, or the church that has stood for so many years now can, be tiled and do those. And those are the kind of things that we need to be doing. Because at the end of the day, you can only use so much, whatever it is that you have. So if you visualize a journey that is from success, because you've had a very, very successful career, and everybody recognizes you whenever you turn up, whether you're on time or late, and you prepare yourself to transition to a period of significance where you're making significant things in other people's lives, then it will not be that difficult for you to transition. We have a very interesting situation, my generation. Our children are now grown up, and they are very independent. The Gen Zs are very knowledgeable. They are very assertive. They may not know what they want, but they know what they don't want. Yeah. So if you turn up with all these very many things that you have, and you think you've been doing them for you, you've been working for the children. Yeah. Those children also have their own future. They have their own plans and aspirations. And I've got so many grown-ups, and these are like real senior wealthy people who are coming to me and say, in Luganda, they're not interested. All the things are for the children. I've been working for like 40 years for the children. Yeah, but children, they're not interested. Yeah? And rightly so. Yeah, we send them to these international schools and very fancy universities, and they get the very good qualifications. And they think they are going to come back and start picking coffee in Masaka or sitting in your hardware shop selling cement and nails. Yeah. But they're also going to have their own journey and do things differently. So don't fear retirement because you are not going to retire. Retire means stopping, receding. It should not happen to you. A knowledge worker, which is very many people, are people falling in that category, will not retire. a concept of a portfolio of careers means you do one thing, you do another thing. Cham, you've got so many different portfolios that you're managing at any one time, and you continue doing those things at 60, at 70, for as long as you are energetic, even if you cannot walk and run, but it is intellectual capital, so you'll be able to do those things. Be prepared to repurpose yourself. Do not constrict and restrict yourself with your so-called qualification. And you say, oh, but I'm a lawyer, or I'm an engineer. Those things are for accountants. There is no qualification called non-executive director, because that's where most people want to go. It is basically what it is says. You are none, meaning you are not. Executive, you're not an executive. An executive is somebody who executes, who does. You are not the person who does. And in addition to that, you are a director. So you are not an executive, but you're a director. But that concept of directing is not giving instructions. It is guiding. It is supporting. It is oversight. It is sharing insights. And most importantly, it is being a leader among leaders. There are so many executives who also struggle to become effective board members because they've been the senior for all the time. And then suddenly you go into a boardroom and you're like 13 of you or 9 of you. Even if you're chairman, you are just happen to be a leader of leaders sitting at the top of the table. But you are not the person who knows all the answers. You're not the person who makes all the decisions. And the beauty of this role of not being the one to execute, a non-executive director, is that you don't need to have the answers. But you need to know what question to ask. And it's more important to ask the questions and ask the questions in a good way, in a manner that is supportive, that is guiding, that is probing, that is aimed at getting to the answer, or aimed at really getting all the options on the table, and one falls off the table over time, as opposed to thinking that you have to know all the answers, because nobody does that. And that is how I've managed to succeed so far.
Actually, there's something you say that I find very interesting. We've seen it a lot in the papers, where especially board chairs of especially government institutions, where they almost want to override everybody, and they even get small offices at these organizations. And maybe talk to us about the art of being an effective board person. More at that also, if you get to become a leader of leaders, how do you make sure that you steer your fellow leaders to bring about growth and accelerated, or basically to bring about movement, not being a stalemate in the board, and you fail to agree on things, and people even start leaking things in the papers. How do you become a good board chair?
Maybe let's start from that other point where you said chairman wants to have an office. And I've said it, if you are an executive director or an executive chairman, the word executive means you are part of the people who execute. Execute is doing. Every enterprise does something and creates value and gets paid, and that is how value is created, and that's how they earn revenue. But if you are a non-executive director, a non-executive chairman, in my view, you have no business having an office in that place, because you see, and the English language is very good. Chief executive officer is you are the chief, meaning you are the leader of executives, and there are many, and those executives are officers of the company. A corporate body has officers, and they officiate over functions. They're in charge of things. They get things done, and those officers have an office in that place, So for you, for you to have an office, you've now crossed the line and got into the other side of executives, So that is best practice. You should not have an office there. You want to remain independent. You want to be a person that is consulted. You want to be somebody who people are comfortable to engage with independently without having been conflicted or corrupted by being involved in the doing. Secondly, relationship between a CEO and chair, and there's a lot of literature on that. Yeah, and the thing, the academics, the researchers, the gurus, at times they overhype these things. Yeah, you become a director first. In most cases, then you become a chairman. Yeah, so there's certainly nothing very, very special about you being chairman over and above the rest of the directors. That's the way I look at it. Yeah, my board journey is a very short journey, so I need to qualify that. I've been a director and an executive director it's coming to about 3 years now. But also the time I spent at PwC, I did a lot of recruitment for non-executive directors and executives. I did a lot of director reviews and evaluation. So I understand that space really well. But I think the best analogy that is used is a chairman is like a leader of an orchestra. Yeah? An orchestra has so many band members and instruments. You can see a flute, you can see something small, and you don't even feel it when the music is playing. But if it's not there, you can realize it. So for starters, you want to put together a board that has so much variety, as opposed to all being of the same type, both in terms of knowledge, expertise, exposure, awareness, and of course diversity, equity, and inclusion also has to be an issue. Then you want to create an environment where people are very, very open with each other, because you are not employees of the company, but you've come to serve. Secondly, you want to create a culture that promotes openness and people supporting each other, because we are all in this thing together. A board, you meet maybe once a quarter, and you have so much to go through to guide going forward. Yet the executives are there full time. So there has to be a very, very healthy relationship between, especially the chairman and the chief executive officer, for that to happen. In the few boards where I chair, I've got a standing calendar meeting with the CEO every month. And if he wants us to meet, I turn up. If he thinks there's no reason to meet, I cannot impose myself on him or her. But that in itself means that for me, as a chairman, I don't go into a boardroom and I'm surprised at anything. Secondly, for him or her as the CEO, he knows I'm available to provide support, to be a sounding board. I've got so much expertise, whether it's finance, auditing, accounting, HR, strategy, stakeholder engagement, policy, you name it, But I cannot volunteer myself until I'm called upon. And by the way, I'm also very, very busy with lots of other things. So that is really, in my view, best practice. It has worked for me. I really go out to build relationships with all the executives. I've been given a program of induction in one or two companies, and things were supposed to be done remotely and online and they say, no. Being a director is a very huge responsibility. Yes. So I need to know who are the guys who are doing things. So I spent like a month and a half meeting all the executives, a one-on-one. And they valued it. They really liked it. We had conversations because I want to learn this company. And by the way, that process, I call it courtship. Because I'm not looking for a job. So invite me to serve on your board. I want to know what this organization is all about. The people, the product, the services, the culture. How do you measure performance? What are you doing for the community and society? And while at the same time, you're also vetting me whether we are the right fit. And that has enabled me so far to have very, very good, mutually supportive relationships, not just with the CEO, but through the across the rank and file. And that, again, ensures that I sleep peacefully.
There's a CEO whom I was talking to recently, and he seemed to be like complaining that, can you imagine? I used to meet my former chairman, meeting my other executives in restaurants and everything. I think, and from what I heard you say, that there needs to be some good level of transparency in terms of, this is what I want to do. This is why I'm doing it, so that. Maybe in line with that, how do you, and I know, having been the senior partner here at PwC, which is the equivalent of CEO, I believe, and now you've crossed over this side, what more tips or lessons have you learned in terms of how there can be a good relationship on either side, between the CEO and the board, and the other way around? And how can you, as a CEO, or on the other end, as a board, especially the board chairman, work proactively to make sure that you create that good environment of working together? Yeah.
First of all, there's some things we take for granted, but that's just company law, basics of company law, just getting everybody to understand what is our role. Number one, they are shareholders. They own the business. They set up the company, and you're a shareholder in your business, and you're running it yourself. But if you are so many shareholders in I&M Bank, so many shareholders in MTN, there's no way you can run it yourselves. So you then appoint a board. So that hierarchy, shareholders, board of directors, CEO, who is a chief of executives, but you cannot be a chief of executives when there are no other executives. And then you have a whole team of executives. So that then gets everybody to appreciate that we are in this thing together. There's nothing like the board is now coming to make life difficult for us and catch out on this. No, we are in this thing together. If anything, a CEO can give a 3 months notice and they move on. Whereas you as a director, you are held. You have a fiduciary responsibility, so you can be held accountable for things that you did not do, but they happened on your watch, especially in these regulated institutions in which we are directors. So that very basic simplifying of the different people's roles and responsibilities gets everybody to be comfortable and understand in which lane they are in. And then for me as director, because having been a consultant for so many years, I come into the boardroom with a certain aspect of simplicity, because I don't want so much noise and information and clutter. I'm here to make a decision, because I have the power to make decisions. And when we're talking about strategy is forward-looking. So we are here to discuss and make decisions that are going to create the future we want. And I try as much as possible to avoid, and actually lately I'm even discouraging a backward-looking conversation. Backward-looking conversations usually is something where executives are very comfortable, because they're telling you what happened. They have reports. Reports are usually containing historical information. So my best and favorable question is, so what? Because I'm not here just to listen how busy you have been over the last quarter. Even me, I've been busy. So what happened? That is historical. Why did it happen? That is the analysis. What insights do we draw from it? That's the predictive. And how do we move forward? And I spoke earlier on about data and analytics, because I read a lot, and I never shy away from anything. Anything that I see and is sort of new technology, latest thinking, I read it. I get a podcast, I get an audible book. So there's a book I've been reading. It's called Being Data Analytical. And this book really helped me to even internalize some of the conversations that go on in the boardroom. And this gentleman says, whenever it comes to information given to you, use the 4 I's, letter I. The starting point is you're given information. That is information. It could be data, it could be a report, it could be whatever it is information. That information is not information for itself. You should use it to get insights, because we're in the business of making decisions. You want the historical information whether it's macroeconomics, whether it's micro, whether it's inflation, whether it's sales, whether it is competition, to give you insights. What insights can you draw from that information? Now, as a board member, you get that information, and because you're appointed as a director for some reason, not because you're a lawyer or an accountant, but because you have a certain level of knowledge and expertise and exposure and intellect that the company executives will benefit from, and also benefit all the different stakeholders, including shareholders. So information should be used to draw insights. Now, once those insights are drawn, because board members are in a position of making decision, you as the CFO, CEO, COO, head of HR, you name it, having shared those insights with me, influence me, that's my third eye, influence me to make a decision, because I've got the power to make decisions. And I'm happy to make that decision if it is advancing our agenda. But at the end of the day, for me, what matters is impact. That's the fourth. So we will get the information, we analyze it and draw insights. Based on those insights, we'll be influenced to make decisions, because we are here not to meet, but to make decisions, and decisions for the future. And once we make those decisions, we want those decisions to result into the impact. The 3 P's: people, profits, planet. And it's very, very important that when we come back, we can talk about what we did and its impact. But if you are just meeting for the sake of meeting and being seen to be busy, being busy, and I will see these people. Public service, you've seen them on TV in a meeting, and the table is full of lots of things, and even you wonder how anybody can have a strategic conversation when there's samosa, mandazi, bogoya, a flask of tea, whatever. Okay, maybe that's how they do things, but
that's how they get insights. So in short, you're saying that you're telling the executives that the board is there for you to use, give them information, give them insights, and go ahead and influence them in a certain direction that's going to create impact for the organization.
Exactly. Anytime you're engaging with the board and giving them information, ask yourself, so what? Because that's the question the board member is going to ask. I'm here to make decisions that are aimed to create the future that we want. Strategy is a forward-focused decision-making process. So you can tell me how busy you've been in the last quarter, you can bring all these tables, and you can bring all these reports, and you can try and, explain how busy you've been, but my question is, so what? And when I ask so what, then you should then tell me, because we've been doing this, and we predict that if we continue doing this, this will happen. Now, is that what we want to happen? No. Now we're talking predictive analytics. Because we don't want to continue doing that, because it will result into this, we need to change course. When you go to the doctor, you have a high temperature. So having a high temperature doesn't mean anything. You just happen to have a high temperature. Maybe you have malaria fever. Maybe you've been standing in the sun. Maybe you have a toothache. Maybe you have, it could be anything. So high temperature is a description. After that, we go into a phase called diagnostic. So a doctor takes your blood, and they diagnose, and they say the reason why you have a high temperature is because you have malaria. So likewise, when you give me information, I want to know our sales have been very good. The NPS, Net Promoter Score, is really good. I say, great. So why has that happened? Because it's good, we want it to continue and reinforce it. So don't just give me information. Let's diagnose that information so that we know what we did well, especially if it's in line with our strategy. Continuing with the doctor's analogy. Now, if they diagnose and you have malaria, doctors know malaria plus can be fatal. So if they say, oh, Cham, you came with a temperature, and actually we checked you have malaria, so it's all good, you can go back home. That's not what you want. Because if you go back home and you've not gotten treatment, we can predict based on science that this malaria might kill you in 10 days. So after describing and diagnosing, you want to predict what should happen. So if the current trend continues, we predict we'll be on budget. If the current trend continues, we are going to lose market share. So predictive analytics enables you to use historical information analyze the trends, and then predict what will happen. Yeah, but because the prediction is giving us something that we don't like, the doctor says, if I don't give you medicine, you might die. So I'm now going to prescribe anti-malaria, whatever, 3 times a day for 7 days. So again, when we're in the boardroom, we look at data, analytics, predictive analytics, and then based on the information that we have, because we're in the business of making decisions for the future, in line with the strategy, in line with what stakeholders want ultimately, and creating value for everybody, we then prescribe what needs to be done. Hire more people, invest here, close this branch, build this factory, and that should then create the future that we want. Yeah. Okay. It's maybe I oversimplified it, but that's the way it is. Okay.
And I'm asking this for my marketing people because I'm also a marketer on the other side. I want to believe, and I hope I'm on point. One of the reasons that have contributed to your success is being visible in the community. And recently I interviewed some lawyer, and he told me, I asked him about the best advice he's ever gotten. He's like, there's somebody who told him that be good at what at what you do, but make sure you also let the world know. Yeah. Exactly. There are a lot of CEOs out there who are good and they're always struggling, whether they should come out or whether they should be in the open. And they're like, maybe when I stand out there, maybe people will hate me. There's a lot of conspiracy theories out there. Yeah. What do you have to, learning from your own experience, to what extent would you say you are being there, you are being visible in community? Of course, you're being in the papers and sharing all that great knowledge. Also giving a part of you to the community. To what extent did that contribute to your own journey and getting you to where you are right now?
Yeah, I mean, like I said at the beginning, I've done some I've taken a few risks. Many have worked out. Yeah. I've also got this thing of envisioning what I want, way ahead, and then I started on that journey. So when I decided to specialize in taxation and then came to work in the Ugandan market, I was surprised at the lack of professionalism that existed back then. And this is so many years ago, 25 or so years ago. I was surprised that the so-called tax experts who are working with the Revenue Authority back then, who were previously working in Ministry of Finance and then customs officers on the border, and then suddenly now they are the people making decisions. And none of them had even ever bothered to sit down and internalize the new Income Tax Act or the VAT Act. And I was surprised at the lawyers thinking that tax is for accountants. It actually, tax law is law. So I went on to a mission, what I call visible expert. And I said, I'm not only just going to do good for my clients, but I'm going to make sure that everybody knows about it. So I wrote in the papers every week for 4 years. 2 years when I was in Kenya, I had a column in Daily Nation called Tax and You. And even now when I go to Nairobi, there are people who recognize me because every week my picture was in the paper and I was saying something about taxation in a very simple, relatable way. I came back to Uganda and continued to do that for the Daily Monitor. I think it was called Tax Matters. Every time when there was a budget, anything to do with tax policy, I was on TV, I was on radio, I was in the papers. And even at some point, one lawyer friend of mine said, but you're giving away so much free information. And I said, but what's the point of having knowledge and you're not applying it? And when we were at school, we used to say knowledge is power. Knowledge is potential power. It's until you use that knowledge. So I don't know what you know right now because you've never said it. You've never written about it. You've never talked about it. But actually, when you give me your business card, you have lots of qualifications. You've got a PDM, LLM, LMC, PT, whatever, diploma in this. Well, it's like, when do you do all these things? But most importantly, what are you doing with them? So the other thing that really concerns me is that ever since I left this space, there used to be a very good friend of mine. She's since left PwC. She used to write in the papers, speak on TV now and again. I think there are a couple of two other people that still do it in PwC. But I go to places and people call you a taxman. I'm not a taxman. In Masaka, they used to think that I'm the one who reads or writes the budget. Yeah, say, well, emisolo. I said, no, it's not about me. Yeah? But through that visibility, and I said it earlier on, it was me as Francis Kamulegeya sharing my views. Even I used to say the views are personal. They are not the official position of the firm. But in that process, I managed to create a brand, a very visible brand, which was transcending beyond taxation. Yeah? So whether it's human resource, whether it's tax policy, whether it's economics, whether it is the budget, whether it is COVID, you name it, yeah, because everything revolves around stability, policy, and business. I know what business wants because I'm also a business person. So it's very easy to come up with something that is coherent, that is informative, and people like that. Yeah. So I would strongly advise people who would like to consider that to do it. The moment you do it and you become so-called subject matter expert, then you get so many invitations. I mean, this week, today is Monday. Last week, I spoke at 3 conferences. Yeah, and I don't have a title, you know. So and nobody was introducing me as a former. Yeah. But somehow they go on my LinkedIn and they say 1 or 2 things, but they're not inviting me because I was former PwC, whatever. They're inviting me because I've got something of value to share and to add. And then when they tell you that they're inviting you to do this, man, you had better have something to say. Yeah. So then you go and read, you do research, listen to podcasts, read the books, see there, whatever. So it's very, very important to be visible as a professional in a good way without, again, getting to the space of appearing to be advertising, which is not acceptable in some of the firms. It doesn't help to hoard information and think that you'll share it when you get a client and they're paying you for it. Because I even had clients who are cutting out articles of what I wrote, and I said, that is not advice, yeah? But the fact that you think that that is something that is relevant to you, maybe I should come and we talk. And when I go to talk, I come back with business. But I also help them solve a problem. So knowledge for the sake of it, and you're not sharing it, it's of no value. Yeah? I think it's Robin Sharma who said that there are so many unwritten books, or is it so many authors or stories in the graveyard or something like that. This other point you've said that, be very, very good at what you do. Again, he says it, be very, very good at what you do that nobody can ignore you. Yeah? And it's not being the best, but doing the very best of what you can do. And every day you do it and you polish here and there and you get better and you get better and, you become visible and you make money. But most importantly, you have a life after the so-called corporate life.
There's been this big question around Gen Zs, managing Gen Zs. I think people sometimes make it look like it's some big animal, but sometimes I recently interviewed the group CEO of ABSA, and he actually made me realize that, did you actually realize that even us at one point we were also like Gen Zs? We used to look like, we used to like Gen Zs to the older populations, but nonetheless, managing them given their uniqueness, has presented some unique challenges. But besides that, you sit in boardrooms. Besides managing people, managing talent, what are some of the other concerns that are coming up for organizations that any leader out there needs to be mindful about?
So, you see, we live in a very, very different world and environment right now. Even unfortunately, we've retained language of the eras that have gone. Even the whole concept of managing people. Nobody leaves home to go to work to be managed. It's as simple as that. You see, the moment you internalize that, then you, as manager, leader, you name it, you get to realize that your job is not to manage people. So the young generation, millennials, Gen Zs, nowadays is it Alpha, Gen, they are given all sorts of labels, but at the end of the day, it's just that they are in a different era of how compared to us, but we all want the same thing. We all want attention. Yeah, even very senior MPs who turn up in church and they're late and they're not recognized. You find somebody passing a piece of paper to somebody so that they recognize their presence. Yeah. So a Gen Z who wants likes, on social media is not very different from that 70-year-old MP who is even a former MP but wants to be recognized. So attention, appreciation, acknowledgement, but most importantly, we want to be of value. Just to ourselves and to other people. There's something I was reflecting on recently as I was looking at the changes, the challenges that we have in the world right now in terms of geopolitics. And then saw one or two pictures with so many 70-year-old plus global leaders at different places. Yeah. And I thought to myself, if the president of Ukraine is 47 years, if he was 75 years, when this was started, would he have done what he has done? Because remember the stories that were going on around him as a comedian when he became president, The reason why I gave that example, Cham, is that the young people have more time than a lot of us who are a bit older, and they're stakeholders in terms of the future. Many of them maybe do not know what they want immediately, but they know what they don't want. So I think it was 10 or so years ago, I was in South Africa, and there was young people saying fees must fall, and the fees fell. In 2011, you remember the Arab Rising, in 1990, after the fall of the Berlin Wall, we saw what happened in Middle Central Europe and all such places. I have hope that the young people will sort out a lot of the problems if they are given a chance to be in positions of leadership. We have people who are in positions of leadership at so many levels, but they're not leaders. Leadership is a choice. Leadership is a mindset. It's not about title. It's not about status. So I believe that stigmatizing and labeling Gen Zs as impatient, as not focused, is the wrong thing. They are impatient because they are not going to do time. You cannot tell somebody that it took you 7 years to be manager, and for that matter, for them to want to be manager in 3 years, they should do time. It's not prison. So it's a different era. We need to do our responsibility as the senior people, mentor them, guide them. They're not going to live in the past like many of the old people do, who say, in our days. We have a generation of people here in Uganda who the olden days were so bad that they have become captive of those old and bad days, that they don't want anything to change. And these young people do not have that baggage. So I'm a strong advocate of Gen Zs. I have a lot of time for young people. I am an elder now. I have time in terms of mentoring, in terms of sharing, in terms of guiding them, and make some clear what the guardrails are, but making very clear to them that don't live the life that your fathers and grandfathers and grandmothers lived, and be assertive, be confident, know what you want, but most importantly, have the values, humility, be humble, read a lot, and do not get carried away with the crowd, because at the end of the day, when things go belly up, you can go on strike, but when it comes to going home, you are going home alone. You're not going to go home as 70 people who were on strike. So we have a responsibility to mentor them, guide them, and share our experiences, while at the same time knowing that they own the future. A person who is 35 years is going to live for another 50 years. A person who is 75 years is on the last lap. So those young people need to be given the respect they deserve, and we play our role as elders to ensure that they have the future that they deserve.
Okay. All right, thanks a lot, Francis. It's been great having you on the show. Always a pleasure to to have these conversations with you. And thank you for always being there and sharing your knowledge and not holding this knowledge. And I guess that's why we're having you as one of actually our second guest on this extraordinary show that is featuring extraordinary leaders that we've had in East Africa, and we look forward to having you more and more. I'm sure in the coming days your roles will change, and we'll look forward to have you more on the show. And to you, our viewers, our readers, and listeners, thank you for following us thus far. We encourage you to subscribe and like this channel, because we'll be bringing you lots and lots of interesting guests. If you know there's a guest out there who inspires you, or who you think there's something that they can share with our viewers, please do reach out to us on our channels, and let's have this conversation. Let's keep the great knowledge flowing, because together East Africa is our region, and we can only build it by ourselves. And the bestest way of doing this is us sharing the knowledge and learning from each other. Thank you. See you next time.